I never thought my children would fight over me while I was still alive. But that's exactly what happened. The night they gathered in my hospital room, their voices sharp, their eyes filled not with love, but with greed. "Who gets the house?" Clara demanded, her words slicing through the air like a knife. "The savings are mine," David countered, his face red with anger. "I was the one who helped her all these years." And my youngest, Anna, sat silently, her eyes darting between them, as if she couldn't decide whether to join the battle or walk away. I lay there in bed, tubes in my arms, my body weak but my mind painfully awake. My heart broke with every word. Not once did they ask how I felt. Not once did they hold my hand. They were already dividing my life, like vultures circling a body not yet cold. Do you know what it feels like to raise children with your own blood and sweat, to sacrifice your youth so they might live better, only to hear them argue over what you'll leave behind instead of the love you gave them? That night, I felt smaller than ever before. Not a mother, not even a person, just an inheritance waiting to be claimed. But here's what they don't know. My children believe the house, the savings, the land, all of it belonged to me. But they are wrong. What they don't know is that this house is built on a lie, a secret I have carried for more than 50 years. If they knew the truth of how I came to own it, they would not fight for it. They would run from it. I closed my eyes that night, listening to their voices rise, and I was no longer in the hospital. I was 17 again, standing in the rain, clutching a bundle to my chest and begging the heavens to forgive me. That was the night my life shattered, the night I made a choice that would haunt me forever. I thought time had buried it. I thought my secret would die with me. But now, as I lie here watching my children tear each other apart, I know the truth must be told. Because if they inherit what I have without knowing its price, then my silence will curse them too. I turned my head and saw Anna watching me, her eyes softer than the others. For a moment, I thought of telling her, just her, the truth. But fear strangled my voice. Instead, I whispered into the empty air, words too faint for anyone to hear. "Forgive me for what I did." The monitor beeped beside me, a cruel reminder of my failing heart. My children stormed out, still arguing, leaving me in the sterile silence of the hospital room. I stared at the ceiling, the memories flooding back, the night, the rain, the choice, the child. And as tears slipped from the corners of my eyes, I realized before my last breath, I must tell the story, all of it. Because the house they are fighting over, it does not belong to me. It belongs to the child I lost. The memory is sharper than any knife, even after all these years. Rain poured down, like the sky itself was weeping for me. I was just 17, soaked to the bone, my trembling arms clutching the tiny bundle against my chest. My baby boy, my firstborn. I remember his cries, so fragile, so desperate. His little face was red from the cold, his fists clenched tightly, as if he already knew he was being torn from the only arms that had ever held him. I whispered his name over and over, pressing my lips to his forehead, trying to brand my love into his skin so he would never forget me. But love, I learned that night, wasn't enough. My parents stood beside me, their faces hard with shame. "Maria," my mother hissed, "you cannot keep him. The neighbors already talk. will all be ruined. You are too young, too poor. This child will starve with you." My father said nothing. He simply turned his face away, as though I was invisible. The man who had given me that child, Thomas, was already gone. He had sworn he loved me, sworn he would stay, sworn he would marry me. But promises mean nothing when spoken by cowards. When he learned I was carrying his baby, he vanished. No letters, no visits, no explanation, just gone, leaving me to carry the weight alone. And so, under that relentless rain, I stood before a stranger's doorway, a childless couple who had agreed, through whispers and arrangements I barely understood, to take him. They had money, they had stability, they had what my parents insisted I could never give him. I knocked on their door with shaking hands. When the woman answered, her eyes fell instantly on the bundle in my arms. She gasped, as though she had been waiting for this moment her whole life. I held on for as long as I could. My arms screamed in protest as they tried to take him from me. I pressed his tiny body against mine, his warmth searing into my soul. "Forgive me," I whispered through sobs. "Forgive me, my son. Mama loves you. Mama will always love you." And then I let go. The emptiness that followed was worse than death. My arms felt like they were bleeding, though no wound was visible. My chest heaved with sobs that wouldn't stop. I remember sinking to my knees in the mud as the door closed, my baby's cries muffled behind it. That was the night I broke, the night I buried my soul. I told myself it was for his good, that he would grow up with comfort, safety, love. I told myself it was the right choice, the only choice. But deep inside, I knew it was also cowardice. I had let fear and shame dictate my fate and his. For years afterward, I pretended it never happened. I never spoke his name again. Not to my parents, not to my friends, not even to myself in the dark of night. I locked him away in my heart like a ghost I dared not summon. But ghosts never stay buried. When I grew older and met the man who would become my husband, I told him nothing. He believed me pure, untouched by scandal. We built a life together, bought a house, the very house my children now fight over, and I told myself this was my second chance, a life without shadows. But every creak of the floorboards, every night spent alone in the dark, I thought of him, my lost son, my baby who grew up without me. And now, lying in this hospital bed, listening to Clara and David argue about the house, I know the house is not mine to give. It belongs to him, because the money that bought it came from Thomas. Yes, the same Thomas who abandoned me all those years ago. He reappeared once, long after I had already married, carrying shame and guilt in his eyes and money in his hands. "Take it," he said, "for the boy." But I didn't give it to the boy. I kept it. I used it to build the life I have now. And that is the sin I have carried in silence all these years. The house my children fight for is not a gift of my love. It is the price of my betrayal. And if the truth comes out, it will not just break them. It will destroy me.
The next morning, Clara arrived early, her heels clicking against the hospital floor. She carried a folder in her hands, her expression tight, determined. "Mama, we need to talk about the house. If you don't put it in writing now, things will get messy later. I stared at her, too weak to argue, my heart pounding with dread. Messy. She had no idea how messy things already were. Before I could answer, David entered, his voice booming. She doesn't need to decide anything today. The house should come to me. I'm the one who paid the bills, took her to appointments, made sure she never went without. Clara shot him a glare. You think love is measured in receipts, David? I cared for her too. Maybe not with money, but in other ways. Their voices rose, clashing like swords. I closed my eyes, their words stabbing into me. They didn't see me, the woman in the bed. They only saw the walls and bricks that I had never truly owned. Anna sat quietly in the corner, her hands folded in her lap. She watched them argue, her eyes full of hurt. At one point, she looked at me, her lips parting as though to speak, but then she lowered her gaze, staying silent. And in that silence, I heard the voice of my lost son, the child who might have asked, had he been here, where is my share? Where is my place in this family? I felt sick. My hands trembled as I clutched the blanket tighter. They didn't know that everything they fought over belonged to him, that the house was born from money soaked in shame, that my silence had stolen his inheritance. But then David's words pierced the room like a knife. If Mama doesn't decide, the law will. And when it does, don't come crying to me when you lose. Clara slammed her folder shut. Maybe the law isn't the only one we should talk to. Maybe we should hire someone, a lawyer, an investigator, to look into everything. Mama's past, Papa's papers, the way this house was even bought. Her words froze the air. My breath caught in my throat. If they searched the past, if they dug even a little, they would find Thomas's name. They would uncover the money. They would discover the child. My chest ached with panic. No, I cried, my voice sharper than I intended. The room fell silent as all three of my children turned to me, startled. No, I said, softer this time, my hands trembling. Please, don't dig into the past. Some things are better left alone. David frowned, his eyes narrowing. Why would you say that, Mama? What are you hiding? Claire's lips pressed into a thin line. You always told us the truth matters, so why does it sound like you don't want us to know it? Anna, still silent, looked at me with wide, searching eyes. Unlike the others, her gaze wasn't full of anger, but of fear, as though she too sensed the shadows lurking beneath my silence. I turned my face to the window, tears slipping down my cheeks. I couldn't bear their stares, because the truth was already clawing its way into the light, and if it escaped my lips before I was ready, everything I had built would collapse. That night, after they left, I lay in the hospital bed staring at the ceiling, my heart aching with regret. For years, I believed silence protected them, but now I saw the truth. Silence doesn't protect, it poisons. And my children were already drinking from the cup I had filled. Anna visited me alone the next evening. No folder in her hands, no sharp words on her tongue. She slipped quietly into the hospital room, carrying a small bag of fruit. Her eyes soft, but searching. Hi, Mama, she whispered, placing the bag on the table. She pulled a chair beside my bed and sat down, folding her hands like a child about to confess a sin. Her silence unnerved me. With Clara and David, I always knew where the fire would burn. But Anna carried her flames inside, letting them smolder until they became unbearable. She reached out and touched my hand, her voice low. Mama, why did you react like that yesterday? When Clara said she'd investigate, you looked terrified. I tried to smile, but
It came out broken. "I'm just tired, Anna. I don't want arguments. I want peace." But Anna didn't look convinced. She tilted her head, her eyes narrowing slightly, the way she used to when she was a little girl and caught me hiding sweets in the cupboard. "No," she said softly. "It was more than that. You're hiding something. Something big." Her words hit me like a stone. I turned my face toward the window, but she wouldn't let me escape. She leaned closer. "Mama, you always told us honesty is the foundation of family. If you're keeping something, don't you see? It's already breaking us." My throat tightened, my tears threatening to spill. She was right. My silence was already poisoning them. I whispered, barely audible, "Not everything can be told, Anna. Some truths destroy more than lies ever could." Anna's hand squeezed mine. Her voice sliced through the armor I had worn for decades. My lips trembled, my chest heaving, and for a fleeting moment, I wanted to tell her, to open my soul and let the secret pour out. But fear held me still. Then Anna did something that shattered me. She pulled out an old photo, one I hadn't seen in years. It was of me at 17, standing stiffly in a faded dress, my belly swollen with the pregnancy I had tried to hide. "Where did you get that?" I gasped, my heart racing. Anna's eyes filled with tears. She found it in the attic. I didn't say anything before, but, "Mama, you were pregnant before David, weren't you?" My breath caught. The world spun around me. My secret, the one I thought buried forever, was staring me in the face in the hands of my own daughter. I wanted to lie. I wanted to tell her she misunderstood, that it was a trick of the light, a mistake, that the truth sat heavy on my chest, pressing against me until it burned. Anna's voice shook as she whispered the words I had dreaded for 60 years. "Mama, what happened to that baby?"
Anna's question hung in the air like thunder, shaking me to my core. What happened to that baby? For 60 years, I had locked that truth away, buried it under silence, prayers, and tears no one saw. Now, here was my daughter, staring at me with eyes full of fear and hope, holding a piece of my past I never meant her to find. My lips trembled, my throat closed. I wanted to say nothing, to pretend she had misunderstood, to let her believe I was the mother she thought I was. But the weight of her gaze crushed me. "Yes," I whispered finally, my voice breaking. "Yes, Anna, there was another baby." Her eyes widened, her hand flying to her mouth. "Mama." I closed my eyes, the tears streaming freely now. I was 17, foolish, alone. Your grandfather and grandmother were ashamed. They told me I was too young, too poor. They said the baby would suffer if I kept him. So, they forced me to give him away. Anna's breath caught, her own tears falling. "You had a son?" My heart split as I nodded. "A boy, my firstborn. I held him once, only once, and then I let him go. I thought it was for the best. I thought he would have a better life without me." I sobbed, clutching her hand, but not a day has passed that I haven't thought of him. Every birthday, every Christmas, every quiet night when I sat alone by the window, I thought of him. I whispered his name to the stars, praying he was loved, praying he was safe, but I never saw him again. Her tears fell onto my hand. "Mama, why didn't you ever tell us? Why hide him from us?" I shook my head, my voice breaking. "Because I was ashamed. Because I was afraid you would hate me. I built a new life. I raised you, David, and Clara with everything I had left.
I told myself the past was gone, but it never truly left me. It lived inside me, like a ghost that refused to leave. Anna sat silently, gripping my hand tighter, her tears mingling with mine. For the first time in years, I felt both relief and terror. Relief that someone finally knew, terror that the truth could spread. But then Anna whispered, "Does Clara know? Does David?" Panic shot through me. No, and they mustn't. Not yet. They're already tearing each other apart over the house. If they learn of this, if they discover what I did, it will destroy everything. Her face frowned, her voice trembling. But Mama, if this house was bought with Papa's money, why would it matter? I froze. My chest tightened. This was the part of the truth I had never spoken to anyone. Because the house wasn't bought with Papa's money. It was bought with the money Thomas gave me. The same Thomas who abandoned me when I was carrying his child. The money he left behind was meant for the boy, my boy. Instead, I kept it. I used it to build the life my other children are now fighting over. I couldn't tell Anna that. Not yet. It would crush her. So I shook my head. The house is not what you think. Please, Anna. I will tell you more when I am ready, but not now. She pulled back, her eyes sharp, her voice trembling. Mama, you can't keep hiding this. Secrets rot families. If you don't tell Clara and David, I will. They deserve to know the truth. Her words struck me like lightning. My frail hands clutched the blanket as I gasped, "No, Anna, please, not yet. I beg you, give me time." But her face was set, her jaw firm in a way I had rarely seen. She wasn't the timid girl anymore. She was a woman ready to uncover everything. Anna stood, wiping her tears, her voice steady. "Time has already run out, Mama. If you won't tell them, I will." And with that, she walked out, leaving me trembling in the bed, the ghost of my first son pressing against my heart harder than ever before.
I knew the moment Anna left the room that the walls of silence I had built for 60 years would soon collapse. My heart pounded so violently, I thought it would tear free from my chest. I prayed she would change her mind, that she would give me more time. But children grow tired of waiting, just as secrets grow tired of hiding. The next afternoon, Clara stormed into my hospital room. Her eyes were blazing, her voice sharp. David followed close behind, his face pale but tight with anger. Anna trailed last, her eyes red from crying, refusing to meet my gaze. Clara didn't waste a second. "Is it true, Mama? Is it true? You had another child before us?" Her words pierced me like a dagger. I froze, my lips trembling, my throat closing with fear. David stepped forward, his voice low but trembling with rage. "We deserve an answer. Anna told us everything. You had a son. You gave him away. And all these years, you kept it from us." The room spun around me. My hands gripped the blanket tightly, as if the thin fabric could anchor me to the world. Tears welled in my eyes. "Yes," I whispered. "It's true." The silence that followed was worse than shouting. Clara's mouth fell open, her hand pressed to her chest as if she had been struck. David's fist clenched, his jaw tightening until I thought it might break. Anna stood still, her head bowed, tears dripping silently onto the floor. "Yes," I said again, louder this time. "I had a son. I was young. I was frightened. My parents forced me to give him away. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I have carried that wound every day since. I loved him. I still love him. Not a day has passed without him in my heart." Clara's voice cracked, her eyes filling with tears. "All those years, Mama,
All those nights you sat by the window, staring out into the dark, it was him, wasn't it? You were waiting for him. I nodded, sobbing. But David's voice, however, was not soft. It was sharp, hard, like stone. And what about us? What about the family you did keep? Were we just replacements? Were we second choices after the one you lost? No, I cried, my hands reaching toward him. Never. You and Clara and Anna were my heart, my joy. I loved you fiercely. But love doesn't erase the child I lost. My heart has always been torn in two. David pulled back from my touch, his face contorted with anger. You lied to us, Mama. Our whole lives. You lied. How can we trust anything you've ever said? His words ripped me apart. I wanted to scream the rest of the truth, to tell them about Thomas, about the money, about the house they were fighting over. But the fear was too great. If I confessed it all now, they would not only see me as a liar, they would see me as a thief who had stolen from her own son to build a life for the others. So I stayed silent. But Clara was watching me closely. Too closely. She narrowed her eyes, her voice trembling. This isn't all, is it, Mama? You're still hiding something. I shook my head violently, but she stepped closer, her eyes burning with suspicion. No, I see it in your face. You've told us about the baby, but there's more. Something darker, something you're still not saying. Her words cut through the air like a blade. And in that moment, I realized the truth. My children would not stop. They would dig and dig until every bone of my past was unearthed. And when they found the truth about the house, about the money, about the betrayal, they would never forgive me.
For 2 days, my children didn't visit. The silence in my hospital room was heavy, suffocating. I thought perhaps they had turned away from me for good, that my confession had broken something that could never be repaired. But on the third day, Clara and David arrived together. Their faces were grave, their eyes hard. Anna trailed behind, her shoulders slumped, her gaze avoiding mine. I knew before they spoke that something terrible was coming. Clara was the first to speak. She pulled a folded document from her bag and dropped it on my lap. We went to the courthouse, she said coldly. We looked into the deed for this house. Do you know whose name we found? My breath caught in my throat. My trembling fingers opened the paper. There it was, in faded ink. Thomas Hargrove. The room tilted. My chest heaved, my heart pounding like a trapped bird. David's voice was low, furious. Who is he, Mama? Why is the man who abandoned you, the man who fathered the son you gave away, on the deed to our house? Tears spilled from my eyes. My lips parted, but no words came. The secret I had carried for decades was no longer safe. It was here, staring at me from the paper in my lap, screaming for release. Clara's eyes were sharp, her voice trembling with rage. Did you buy this house for you? Did you take his money after he left you pregnant and alone? I shook my head weakly, sobbing. No, it wasn't like that. David slammed his hand against the bed rail, making me jump. Then tell us what it was like. Tell us the truth, Mama. Because from where I stand, this house, the very thing we've been fighting over, isn't even yours to give. My body shook with sobs. My lips parted, but no words came. He came back once, years after I had given the baby away. He came to me with shame in his eyes and money in his hands. He said it was for the boy, for the son we lost. He wanted me to give it to him to secure his future. Clara's face twisted with disgust. And you didn't?
I buried my face in my hands. No, I didn't. I used it to buy this house. I thought I was building a life for the family I still had. But every brick, every wall, it all belongs to the child I abandoned, to the son I never raised. The silence that followed was unbearable. Clara staggered back as if struck. David's jaw clenched so tightly it trembled. Anna sobbed quietly in the corner, her face in her hands. Finally, David spoke, his voice hoarse with betrayal. So all these years, we lived in a house that wasn't ours. We lived in the shadow of a brother we never knew, funded by money that should have been his. Her words sliced me open. My frail body shook violently, my tears flowing faster than I could stop them. The walls of silence I had built were gone, replaced by the cold, hard truth. And yet, in the depths of my fear, a strange thought pierced through. Perhaps this was justice. Perhaps the son I abandoned would finally claim what was his. But another thought, darker, sharper, consumed me. If they find him, will he even want to see me? Or will he spit on the name of the mother who gave him away? I turned my face to the wall, my voice trembling with despair. If they find him, he will never forgive me.
The days that followed were the longest of my life. Every knock on the hospital door made my heart lurch. Every creak of the floor made me hold my breath. Clara and David were determined. They spoke in hushed tones on the phone, made visits I wasn't part of, and returned with eyes that burned with secrets. Anna stayed quieter than ever, her gaze always heavy with sorrow when she looked at me. And then, one evening, he came. The door opened slowly, and in walked a man I had only seen in dreams. He was tall, his hair streaked with gray, his face worn by time. But his eyes, oh, those eyes, they were mine. They were Thomas's. They were the baby I once held, grown into a man. My breath caught. My hands shook violently. "Michael," I whispered, though I had never dared to speak his name aloud before. His gaze was cold, sharp, and filled with questions. Clara stood beside him, her arm gently guiding him forward. "Mama," she said softly, "this is him. We found him." The room tilted, my world spinning. My lost son was here, in front of me, and yet farther away than ever. Michael's voice broke the silence. "So it's true. You are my mother." I nodded, tears streaming down my cheeks. Yes, my son. I am so sorry. I was young. I was afraid. They forced me, but it was my weakness too. I gave you away, and I have hated myself every day since. His lips trembled, his fists clenched. Do you know what it's like to grow up without a mother? To wonder why I wasn't enough to keep? To feel like a mistake, a burden, unwanted? I sobbed, reaching out my trembling hand. You were never unwanted. You were my heart, my flesh, my first love. I thought giving you away would save you, but it only destroyed us both. Forgive me, Michael. Please forgive me. The silence was unbearable. Clara and David stood rigid, their faces pale, waiting for his judgment. Anna wept quietly in the corner. Michael's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. He turned his face away, his voice breaking. I don't know if I can forgive you. Not today. Maybe not ever. But
I wanted to see you, to look in your eyes, to know you're real. My chest tightened, relief and agony colliding inside me. At least he was here. At least he had not turned his back completely. Then David spoke, his voice trembling. This house, Mama, it belongs to him. It was built with his money. Tell him. I nodded, my tears falling faster. Yes, it is yours, Michael. It was always yours. I kept what was meant for you. I stole your inheritance to build a life for the others? Take it. Take everything. It should have been yours all along. Michael looked at me then, his eyes blazing. For a long moment, I thought he might shout, curse me, walk out and never return. But instead, his voice softened, filled with something I didn't expect. I don't care about the house, he whispered. I just wanted to know why. And in that moment, I knew he might never forgive me, but at least he understood. I clasped my trembling hands together and whispered the only truth I had left. Because I was a coward. Because I let fear win. But hear me, all of you. Don't make the same mistake. Don't let silence and secrets destroy what love you have. Speak. Forgive. Hold each other tight. Because when the end comes, love is the only inheritance worth leaving. The room filled with Kiers, Michael's, Clara's, David's, Anna's, and mine. The wounds were deep, forgiveness uncertain, but for the first time, the truth was no longer buried. It lived in the open air, raw and painful, but alive. And as my frail body sank back into the pillows, I felt a strange peace wash over me. My family was broken, yes, but broken things can still be mended. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday. And that, at last, was enough.